What is good? What's going on, guys? Good evening. Guess no candle tonight. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Welcome. Still getting used to these 9 p.m. streams. But, here we are. What's going on, guys? Anthony Alfred, what's going on? Candle is a must to get the mood going. I know, but, no lighter. If anybody's wondering, these Moss candles from Target are an absolute banger. Not a paid promotion. Just happen to love the way they smell. What's going on, guys? But yeah, so my lighter decided to crap out, so that's trash. What's going on? What's going on? The concept, what's good? I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to get in. Coin was a banger. It was today. 200% on those coin calls. It was fire. What's going on, guys? Slimy Bucket, what's good? I love the username. Alfred Anthony said, I learned so much from you. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. What's going on, guys? Don't be afraid to say what's up in the live chat. I'll be trying to answer as many questions as I can. I'm going to try to do some short chart requests as well towards the end of the stream. So, Mark, what's going on, man? Thoughts on GME's move after hours? I think it should be good. I think that's always a solid. When we get moves like that, liquidity events is what I like to call them. When you get the memes kind of going, usually present some nice moves. The return of the GOAT, what's going on? Better Roomba, what's going on? Natalie Simpson, learning a lot from your videos. Thank you, Natalie. I really appreciate that. It means a ton to me. We work really hard on those videos, so I appreciate it. Been following you on Twitter for a while and keep it 100% real, and I'm sure we all appreciate that. Thanks. I appreciate that. Slimy Bucket. Means a ton. Been green every single day since subscribing to Mans. Day 12, we are on fire. John, that's awesome, bro. I appreciate that. Let's go. 12 days in a row. Let's keep it going tomorrow. 13 days coming in hot. Appreciate it. What's going on, guys? I know we're going to have a little bit of a lower view count tonight. USA Baseball against Japan going on right now. So appreciate everybody that's tuning in. Really appreciate it, guys. What's going on, guys? Baseball or learning to trade, no brainer. Sweet. All right, guys, what is going on? I'm going to give everyone about 2 more minutes, not even, about a minute more to kind of get in, and then we are going to go ahead and get started. Again, I really appreciate everybody that is tuning in right now. I really appreciate it a ton. Always good to see everybody. Don't forget, you can say what's up in the live chat. I appreciate everybody that tuned in to the the CPI stream as well. That was one of our most viewed streams ever, 1.6K people. So that was awesome. Really appreciate everybody that tuned in. Tweet the stream link in the Discord, and then we will be ready to go. All right, sweet. All right, guys. All right, so we are live. Obviously, gonna give. I'm sure we'll have some people strolling in here still over the next few minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. A little bit of water, always necessary right before the stream. Obviously, guys, this is the FOMC prep stream. Really happy and thankful for everybody that's joining. I'm really excited to do this again tonight. Going to kind of give a brief layout as to the plan for the stream, and then I will kind of get into exactly what I'm going to be looking at. IWM, I can definitely look over that a little bit later, Mark. I'll definitely check on that. But going to give a brief layout on what we're looking at in terms of tomorrow as far as macro goes, what I'm going to be looking for in terms of Powell, the dot plot, etc. And then I'm going to cover 2 short trades that I do like and 3 separate long setups that I think can be really powerful into tomorrow. Actually, 4 long setups. So 6 setups in total, guys. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less on each. I'm going to try to make this stream as straightforward, to the point, and as valuable as possible to you guys. I'm not going to try to waste your time, not going to try to waste my time. Going to be straight and direct to the point, and then we are going to get after it as we get into a very big day tomorrow. We've had the market pretty coiled and consolidated, so we should see some really nice moves. This is probably the most anticipated FOMC meeting in a very long time. Obviously, because of the macro that we have been currently facing, especially with the banking crisis, guys. You know, we're only 2 weeks really removed from SBV. And then, of course, we're still dealing with kind of the First Republic saga, et cetera. So there's a lot going on right now. I kind of wanted to first start out with, obviously, the CME FedWatch tool. If you guys are not using this, you guys can see it. It's open on my other screen right now. CME Group provides some really nice analytical data when it comes to rate hikes. Obviously, the Fed tomorrow is going to be giving us a decision on their rate hike path, right? So the consensus is right now we are either going to be pausing rate hikes or looking at a 25 basis point hike, right? A couple weeks ago, we were looking at 50. Obviously, with everything that's happened in terms of the banks, we are definitely now more looking at a 25 or a pause, right? That consensus has shifted mightily basically in the past day or two. Unless the Fed surprises markets, currently right now, the CME tool is giving us an 86.4% chance of a 25 basis point hike, right? We have still shifted a lot in terms of the terminal rate, right? We're now pricing in several rate cuts later this year and into 2024, much earlier than we had originally kind of expected due to the pressure that's been applied to the overall financial markets. And we are only implying a 13.6% chance of a pause, right? So right now, just in case you guys are wondering, typically the day prior to FOMC, these probabilities are 99% to 1% or 98% to 2%, right? So this is actually still one of the more indecisive FOMC meetings we've had in a while. I think there is definitely that slight outside chance of a pause tomorrow. But I think that the more obviously likely scenario that we're looking at right now is a 25 basis point hike, right? This has been a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that go into this decision for the Fed, and it's a really important decision, right? So at the end of the day, guys, I'm really not going to try to sit here and speculate on the exact moves that are going to come. I'm going to cover, again, 3 setups basically for each side of the trade, 2 short setups actually, and then 3 separate long setups that I do personally like. And then obviously, whichever way we see the market trend and direction-wise, which I think we're going to get a big move either way, those will be kind of my focus points, right? My premise for those trades is I personally am a trader that likes to look for relative strength and relative weakness, right? My number one goal is to be longing relative strength, so trading relative strength to the long side, and trading relative weakness to the short side, right? Because I'm already at an advantage in terms of direction at that point. Sorry, a little bit of slight nose wipe there. And that is really going to be my plan. So I'm going to run through the hourly and daily charts for a couple of the setups that I'm looking at. Flow has been pretty dead lately. I usually will go through kind of a flow breakdown, but I really want to focus today on the charts and kind of the technicals behind going into tomorrow. So yeah, so if you want to see the CME tool, quickly kind of go here, and then we will, if you're interested as to what that looks like. So you can see the CME tool here, guys. Someone in the live chat wanted to kind of take a peek at it, which is fine. I probably should have had that set up, but obviously right now you can see on the screen, right? So 86.4% chance of a 25 basis point hike, and then a 13.6% chance of a pause going into tomorrow. So that is kind of the setup as of right now. Again, in terms of probabilities, this is what the market is going to kind of go off of in terms of pricing things in, right, to the extent that they do. And I think one of the really important notes here, and kind of, a point to drive home is one of the reasons that we are seeing tech show relative strength right now, right? You've seen the moves in Microsoft, Amazon, Coinbase, for example, ARKK, right? ARKK was clear outperformer today again, up a little bit over 5%, right? Broke through that huge level at 40. And the reason that we're kind of seeing this, again, is because of the fact that with rates going down, right, we see valuations expand, which is also really good for growth companies. Those are companies that need debt to grow and continue on the path towards profitability. And so, like I said, guys, this is a really, really big thing when it comes to kind of those growthier names, the higher beta names, and especially those tech names. Not sure why my phone decides to go off in the middle of the stream, but thought we had that on Do Not Disturb. All right, so we are back. Striving to become like you. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that a lot. Dylan, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So like I said, guys, obviously we're seeing tech kind of show outperformance right now. That's going to be because we are obviously looking towards a lower terminal rate, right? And so lower terminal rate, obviously better for those tech names. Again, as far as tomorrow goes, I'm never going to be the trader that tries to sit here and, play That So Raven and tell the future. I'm more of a reactionary trader, right? So I'd rather see the way the market interprets tomorrow. We're going to really need to pay attention to the dot plot, obviously the rate hike decision, and then kind of go from there. Markets don't like to be surprised. So in my humble opinion, and I am not an expert, in terms of monetary policy by any means, but I don't think that a pause actually would be interpreted as bullish. I think that would mean that the economy is really in a lot of trouble, and it has not really shown yet. And the Fed feels like if they hike any more, then they are going to cause, possibly damage that it's going to be much harder for them to come in and repair on a, decent timeline, right? So that would be, kind of my very, very, humble view on things from a macro standpoint in terms of what the decision is going to mean. But again, I'm going to interpret things as they trend and not try to predict heavily. If I'm going to predict it all, it's going to be with speculative size, right? Like, for example, I have some coin runners trade that went 200% today. I kept some of my position overnight. While I have some exposure there, it's because it's a very select A+ setup, and I'm comfortable with what I'm risking, and I'm willing to, right? I know what I'm risking there, right? And I'm not going to take any other trades probably prior to, we get that till we get that rate hike decision tomorrow. So, like I said, the morning for me tomorrow is going to be very much hands off. The first chart that I do want to kind of cover is going to be the S&P 500 SPY. This is going to be my primary focus on the downside tomorrow. If we see a market that is trending down, I really don't like to right now in terms of individual setups. I think that it's much easier to find individual relative strength setups. So for me, I'm just going to focus on the overall market to the short side. One reason that I am choosing SPY as my short focus over the Qs is because of the fact that we have seen that weakness in financials and energy names, which the S&P 500 has more exposure to, whereas the Qs are obviously more tech exposed. And so I would expect that we would see SPY show more relative weakness because of that exposure that we have to the financial names and to the energy names, right, which have been kind of really dragging things down as of late. So S&P 500 is going to be my primary focus today, going into tomorrow on the short side. The level that I'm going to be paying attention to, obviously, on the upside is going to be that 400 spot, right? We had a very strong close today. And we saw a lot of support on the hourly, on the S&P 500 at this 395.5 level. And really where the major key level that I was paying attention to today was that 396.40 level. If you guys look at the hourly on the S&P 500, and I'm going to emphasize this, when I come to the desk and I'm preparing for any type of event, whether it's just whether it's a CPI print or an FOMC print or anything like that, the first step for me is to look at the hourly chart. Then I'm going to look at the daily, right? And oftentimes I'm going to work my way back. I'm going to look at the weekly a little bit earlier in the day. Then I'm going to make my way to the daily, hourly, and so forth, right? But really the hourly chart is where I gain my game plan every single day, right? So as I go through this stream, I want things to make sense from how am I navigating these charts? And the way that I'm, really navigating them is through my system. And my system is really kind of based off the hourly chart. And then intraday, I am primarily a 15-minute trader, right? So my highest conviction setups come from the 15-minute time frame. So in a market where we have crazy moves 24/7 and there's, crazy high record volumes and everything like that, a market more similar to 2020 and 2021, if you guys are, were familiar in trading then, I actually liked the 5-minute a little bit more just because there were such sequential and active moves that I felt like you needed to be on a lower time frame. But in this market, we are in a range-bound market, right? There is not a ton of crazy parabolic moves to either side happening every single day. So I am really primarily, again, my highest conviction setups come from the 15-minute and the hourly intraday, and a lot of my conviction for the trades that I take comes from those two time frames. And therefore, when I'm prepping for the day, I'm really going to utilize that hourly time frame. So hopefully that makes sense. If it does, you guys can let me know in the live chat. But that is why I'm going through the charts in the manner that I am the night before, right? Is because I want to utilize those same time frames in my preparation that I use intraday, right? So obviously the S&P 500, definitely a primary focus for me tomorrow. On the downside, I would want to see hourly confirmation below this 396.40 level. First, as you can notice, guys, if you notice these first 4 hourly candles that we printed today, we had a lot of chop in between that 397.5 and that 396.40 area. But if you'll notice, technically what made this an attractive long setup to me was the fact that we saw these long lower wicks, right? And those candle bodies continued to close over the key hourly level at 396.40. So if you were, taking the short side on some trades today, for example, I actually traded some Exxon puts, lotto size. I ended up taking a 15% loss on them today. Obviously I had a great trade on coin and another really great trade on AI. So it was a really green day for me. However, I did take a small loss on some Exxon puts there when we rejected off 397. And what led me to take that long side trade on coin was actually seeing the consistent soak, quote unquote, is what I call it. When you're constantly seeing these long lower wicks be printed on the S&P, that is usually, a sign of buyers stepping in, right? And every single time they close those hourly candles over the 396.40 level. And that level was significant because if you look back on the hourly time frame, what was this 396.40 level acting as prior, right? If you go back to the 16th, does anybody want to let me know in the live chat? All right, that 396.40 level was acting as resistance, right? So if we look at that hourly time frame, guys, and you want to simplify things as much as possible, for me, all I saw was a prior area of resistance here on the hourly, right, become support today, right? It's not a coincidence that we saw those hourly candles all see these, wicks down and then they close the candle body above, right? People refer to that as maybe a liquidity sweep on the hourly. I like to call them candle traps. Doesn't really matter. It's the same general principle. You get shorts that try to short these breakdowns of hourly resistance. They get trapped. Buyers step in, pull these candle closes above the key hourly level, and then you continue higher, right? So I really think that that is definitely an important thing to note, is that the hourly is really a conviction point for a lot of this trade. So that is going to be the key hourly level that I'm going to be watching tomorrow on the downside. So an hourly close below the 396.40 level. For me, I'd probably be looking at the 395 puts on the S&P 500. And then I really think we could see a pretty progressive unwind, so a move to the downside under the 395.55 level, right? And I think that would definitely lead us towards this 394.11 area, which was, again, prior hourly resistance. And that's where it gets really ugly for me, is if we start breaking down below 394, I think we'd revisit this 387.5 up to 388 level on the S&P 500 hourly chart. So this is going to be a major move to the downside that I'd be watching, is confirmation under 394. But again, if we give back 396.40 and we close under that level on the hourly, I'm primarily going to be looking at a decent chunk of short setups, post Powell tomorrow. So that's definitely a spot that I'm going to be looking at. Again, for me, confirmation below 395.55, and I think I'd be looking at the 395 puts for this upcoming Friday on SPY. So that's going to be my top downside focus, guys. I kind of explained this, but there's not a ton of individual names that I think are providing beautiful, clear, and consistent short setups right now. Exxon was one I thought was going to be there, but Apple is the other one that I wanted to talk about in terms of a short side trade that I like. The reason that I would like this to the short side, if you look, this is a humongous breakout on the daily for Apple. If you look, this 157.97 level has been a major area of resistance on the daily. So the reason that I potentially like Apple to the short side tomorrow, if we see Powell come out more hawkish, if we get a surprise to the market that delivers some instability, I would really like Apple to the downside here, because what I would take that as, or interpret it as, would be a fake breakout on today's daily candle, which I think would have a decent chunk of longs trapped. So a move below the 157.97 level and a candle close sub that 157 area would definitely be a more bearish setup for me. And personally, like I said, if we do see a more negative market reaction tomorrow, I think that Apple really under that 157 down to 156.50 area is going to be a really nice short spot for me. Again, that's the daily, right? So, and the premise behind that trade would be, again, right, the fake out breakout today. Another reason that I would like Apple under this 157 area is, you can see, again, we're looking at the hourly today, and look at where they soaked it, right? Continually, right, you'd interpret this to be your support area here at the 156.42 level, or 156.54 level, our intraday low. But really what I'm going to be looking at is into this 157 area. You can see we closed, even in pre-market, had multiple candle closes above that 157 area. So I think if we get a hourly candle close under this 156.55 area, that would be an A+ short setup for me for a move down to probably the 153 or 154 level, right? So in between that, we have a demand zone here at the 154 spot where we saw a pretty big soak on the 17th and then again on the 20th. But again, for me, guys, I really think that would be a clean trade to the downside if we get an hourly close on Apple sub that 156.55 level. So that is definitely, for me, going to be an A+ setup that I'm going to be watching closely as far as the short side. So on the long side, the two primary traders that I'm looking at tomorrow. Coin, obviously, this is a favorite for me intraday. Yes, I do have a position here that is a longer term position. This has been an absolute leader in terms of the market lately, especially on intraday moves, guys. We don't need to overcomplicate it too much. Look at the daily, and this thing has just been absolutely moving, right? The reason that I like this on the long side is very simple, right? I am paying very close attention to a break over the 87.63 mark, right? Why am I paying such close attention to that? Let's zoom out on the weekly, right? The last time that we broke over that level, this is also our highest daily close on coin since August. And this one has just had the strongest bid, right? Up another 11% today. I really think that if we get a break over this 87.57 level, I think that we could probably test into this 115 or 116 area very quickly, right? The last time that we did that was on the BlackRock news back in August, and we created support at this 87 spot post BlackRock, right? And then we had the 83 area, 84, turn into resistance, right? And so we had our highest daily candle close from August today. So as far as a momentum-based long side trade, with the relative strength that BTC has been showing, Coinbase is going to be my top long focus tomorrow, right? And that is purely based off the technical chart. And then again, the fact that Bitcoin has a very bullish daily candle setup And we just closed our first weekly candle over the bear market structure point on Bitcoin, which is at the 25.3 levels. So Bitcoin has obviously been preceding this move a little bit. I think you're watching names like Coinbase, Riot, Mara play catch up right now. But the reason that I love this setup on the weekly, right, is if we close above that prior weekly candle high, especially, right, if we get a daily close above this 87 level, there's a lot of thin air is what I like to call it, right? There's not a ton of resistance above this price point, because even as we look back, you can see that back in early May of 2022, we gapped directly through this level on strong momentum, right? The other time that we got above this spot, we gapped up on the BlackRock news from 87 to 116, right? So coming into tomorrow, if we see a strong move on BTC combined with a overall healthy move in ARKK, I think that coin can really see an outlier move to the long side. And when I say an outlier move, I mean this is a stock that has an average range of, $8.80 a day. It already moves a ton on a normal day. So on a high volatility day, I've seen this thing move 15, 20 points, and it's not that crazy, right? We saw an intraday reversal last week, I think 52 to 67, right? So this can absolutely make an outlier move, and that's why it's going to be my focus. Again, above that 87.57 mark, I think that really provides a strong and powerful move to the upside. So yeah, you maybe call it inverse head and shoulders. I really think this has just been a strong trend. And the way that I'm looking at this right now is we printed a bullish engulfing candle on the weekly. And then, we're obviously already seeing continuation on this weekly candle. Could this fail? Absolutely. But from a, risk to reward standpoint, I think the reward here is probably, a 10 to 15 point gap above 87. And for me, that's attractive from a short-term options trading standpoint, right? When options become advantageous for me is when we get outlier moves like that, that the premiums aren't exactly pricing for. And that creates, an advantage to the trader in terms of the premium because you can get really, really nice moves. So I tagged you into CoinChart on Twitter, Mark. I'll definitely check that out. But I'm going to post a chart and kind of my explanation on this on my primary Twitter a little bit later tonight. But the reason that I really like this one, like I said, guys, is the breakout potential over 87. My targets would be this. So 96.43 is going to be the first target for me. I definitely think we'll encounter some resistance there. But again, over that level, it's 104 and then 116 for me on a breakout above 87.57. I'm not really going to be too focused on this name to the short side because of the fact that this has had so much relative strength. Again, I primarily focus on longing names with high relative strength and shorting names with, high relative weakness, right? As far as the daily goes, we kind of discussed that already. The hourly standpoint, right? The area that I would want to see coin hold prior to Powell and prior to our rate hike decision would probably be in this 83 zone, right? Because that's a humongous level on the weekly chart. I think if we hold this level at 83 and push through today's high in that 85.05 range, again, I would be targeting 87.63 and then 96 and then 116, right? So those are going to be my focus points and targets. My thesis there is very, very simple, right? And it's that high relative strength name at a major weekly breakout point. And you guys can see how this weekly candle structure is already starting to build. So that is going to be my top long focus without a doubt. Like I mentioned, if you compare these charts side by side, BTC USD, I personally think this name is still lagging. And I think we could see some catch-up be played, and I also think BTC has room to 32K above. If anybody, I don't know if you're in the live chat, if you are and you listen to the CPI stream, I said that if we saw that weekly close through 25K and a break above 25K after CPI, we'd see some momentum there, and we absolutely did. We're another 13% higher on Bitcoin since the stream, so hopefully that was helpful. But I'll try to give my crypto analysis every time I do the stream, at least once in a while, just because I find it to be helpful in trading some of those names. Another name that I personally really like tomorrow on the long side is going to be the AI daily chart. This was an interesting one today. D-Book Trading, shout out to him. He had a killer thesis on this. And I don't happen to think that this is completely done yet. Due to the fact that, like I said, we've seen a lot of really tight consolidation today, and we've seen a lot of really tight consolidation on the daily. If you guys look and see, we just spent 8 days in this zone, right? Between 2019 and 2261. And today we finally got a daily breakout above that key resistance at that 2260, 2270 level, right? So this chart to me has a lot of room to the upside. We printed a very strong gap up on its last earnings report. And I think that if we see a chart like ARKK with continued continuation, right? This has been the strongest name. And again, I want to be sitting in names that have relative strength. And the ARKK daily chart alongside a name like AI or a name like Coin really, to me, offers the most upside potential because of the fact that if ARK breaks through this 41 level, each time we've broken through the 41 level, look at what's happened, right? You look at early February, we gapped up to 45. If you look at February 14th, we gapped up to 43.37, right? And we've since had very strong resistance at this 40.92 up to the 41 spot. So the reason that I like so many of these ARKK names is because the ETF that is really their leader, right? Which if you look at Coin, AI, etc., they follow ARKK more than SPY, right? Or QQQ. This is the name with, probably the highest relative strength and upside potential that I see in terms of the indices and ETFs. How do you determine relative strength? It's a great question. So a great example today would be you could kind of look around at some of the growth names, and two names that stick out for me in terms of relative strength would have been Tesla and Coin, right? Look at Tesla's daily candle, right? Really powerful candle to the upside. That's a very, very bullish candle after breaking out of a consolidation pattern like this. Matthew Campos, what's going on, my guy? The TikTok king is in the house. What's going on? Bro smart, but the layoffs, the uppers. Yeah. So for me, guys, when you look at a name like Tesla, you can go and see that, even if you look at something like the 15-minute or the hourly chart, you can see that Tesla was in a consistent uptrend all day on really high volume. And so, on a day like today, I try to look around my watch list, and I have a watch list of, 15 to 20 stocks that I personally trade every day. But you can identify relative strength pretty easy, right? You can go through and see which ones are leading in terms of their percent gain, right? And the other way that you can really identify relative strength, and this is a pretty good hack, is you can look at, how many dips did Tesla have today, right? Well, we had some pretty nasty dips on SPY this morning, but look at how Tesla compared to SPY throughout the day, right? SPY gave us, some really weak action in the mornings, right? We had this kind of nastier price action right here. We kept dipping towards support, etc. Okay, well, let's zoom out and compare the SPY 15-minute and the Tesla 15-minute. That's a pretty good example of relative strength right there. And I think that's probably the best example that I can give you is just looking at your name with relative strength side by side with, the S&P 500, which is the indice that kind of, represents the overall market. Does that make sense? Alfred, does that make sense? When I'm saying like I'm comparing Tesla against SPY, right? Like you can look at those two 15-minute or hourly charts side by side, and you can see, okay, well, Tesla barely dipped when SPY was dipping, right? So that's a pretty good indicator that there's really strong buyers present, and that's a name that you want to probably focus on to the long side, right? That's how I go through things and identify relative strength. That was a really great question, and I appreciate you asking it, Alfred. That was probably helpful to a lot of people in the stream, and I appreciate that. That was a great question. If you have questions, guys, you can ask them in the live chat. I'll try to answer as many as I can. I'm not going to try to keep everyone for too long, but that was a really, really good question, and that's probably going to be something that's really helpful for you guys over the next couple of days, because I personally like to make my life easier when I'm trading, and a name like Coin, right? Another relative strength name where when SPY was giving off some, maybe a little bit of a suspect vibe, had a really nice move. Will you give us an example of identifying support and resistance levels? Sure. I think that I can do that right now, right? On a name like Coin, right? This chart right here, we're looking at the 15-minute chart, okay? And you can see how Coin this morning, right, was consolidating in this pattern. And you can see these wicks, right, came up to this 79.80 level. And that also coincided with a psychological breakout point at 80. So you can see how we had resistance here, right? But look what happens the first time that we close a candle above that 79.80 level, right? The first time that we close a 15-minute candle above that level, which means the body of the candle, which is right here, closes above. The minute that closes above, we get an upside breakout and see a 4 or 5% move to the upside without one pullback, right? So that is a 15-minute breakout setup, right? And that's a good example of looking at, a resistance level on a time frame like the 15-minute and then trading a clean upside breakout to the upside. So does that make sense? Slimy Bucket asked for support and resistance levels. Yeah, AI is another good one. You look at the daily chart. This is a great example of support and resistance, right? Clearly, we know that on a wider time frame like the daily, right, AI has really strong support at 20 and it's got strong resistance at 30, right? And it's been trading in this range since February, right? So we've spent a month and a half inside of a $10 range. So you could have, right now, psychologically, right, people are thinking to themselves, we feel like AI is a good buy at 20 and we like selling AI at 30, right? That is the definition of support and resistance. All that we're doing is looking at support and resistance. It's just a painting of people's psyche, right? We're just looking at a psychological picture of people's minds being painted on a screen, right? That's what support and resistance is. We like to buy AI at 20. We like to sell AI at 30, right? And that's the base level, right? That's looking at it on the daily chart. And does that kind of make sense? And then how do I get my Webull candles to look like this? That's a great question. Top left-hand side, you can hit line style or candle style, and you can choose which candles you like. I like the hollow ones personally, but it's up here if you look at the top left-hand side. But that's a good basic definition. And then on the hourly, right, if we look at something tighter, today you can see like on the hourly chart here on AI, the reason that we saw a sustained move up was because we broke over this hourly resistance, right, at 23. So, the next area of resistance that I would look towards would be 24 because we had some hourly support there. And so the best concept that I learned as a newer trader was the concept that old support turns into new resistance and the concept of old resistance turning into new support, right? So in a bullish trend, old resistance turning into new support, that's bullish. That's healthy for the stock to keep going up, right? On the bear side of things, once something has a support level and it's broken and it comes back up and it's no longer support, it's now resistance. That's a good example of old support turning into new resistance. So it's just the flip-flop. Hollow aesthetic, yeah, I'm a big hollow aesthetic guy. I don't know. I personally love how like the Webull charts are all black behind the screen here, in terms of the daily chart. So whereas like the hourly charts, you've got, I don't think the aesthetic is as good, but I am a big chart aesthetic guy. I appreciate you noticing that. How do I correlate volume with breakouts? That's a good question. Personally, I think volume is definitely important. I like to look at volume on wider time frames like the daily, the weekly, things of that nature, because that's giving me a better idea that there's volume supporting those larger time frame moves. Intraday, I personally try to use volume, but it's not a like top level confirmation point for me. We're in a lower volume market as it is right now. So, for me, it's more helpful on wider time frames, right? Higher time frames. How do you use options chart to manage risk and stops? Sometimes I'll look at the options chart in terms of entries. Is NVIDIA dead? I do not think NVIDIA is dead. I think that NVIDIA should have sold way harder today. I like this setup long into tomorrow personally. Look at that daily candle, right? It looks like a hammer to me. Really hard push up. I think a good focus for NVIDIA tomorrow would be watching the 263.99 break. That would be last week's high, right? So if we get a break above last week's high on NVIDIA, so a break through 264, I personally think that there's a lot of people trying to short NVIDIA right now, and it's such a crowded trade that it's just going to keep going harder until it stops everybody out, and then it'll finally come down. But until people keep trying to force this NVIDIA short trade, it's just going to keep not working. So I'm staying away on the short side on NVIDIA. Does that make sense? Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Props on the coin conviction. Lucid, I appreciate that, man. When you look for options contracts of interest to trade, how do I choose the strike price? Strike price is, it depends if you want less volatility, right? So less volatility, I'll trade in the money contracts. So in the money being like on NVIDIA, the 260 calls, or if I'm looking to get exposure to more volatility because I think a big move is coming, I'll go with like the 265 call or the 270 call, right? Go to, 3-4% out of the money is kind of my sweet spot. I don't think NVIDIA looks nasty. I think NVIDIA looks good, especially on the weekly, right? I think that's a clear weekly breakout on NVIDIA on the weekly. And I think it's got room to 289 on those higher time frames. So I don't think NVIDIA looks nasty at all. Hey, man, quick question. Have you ever tried trading futures since you seem to watch SPY and QQQ often? Also love the content. Been watching you for so long. I appreciate that, Sergio. I personally do not trade ES or NQ. It's just, I stick to what I'm really good at and what I feel as though I've, spent a lot of time on. And so I try to stick to what I know best. And for me, that's what I trade on a daily basis, those 4 or 5 names. And so that's what I stick to. Yeah, absolutely. Trading Main Simple. Thanks for the great question. Oh yeah, I meant nasty in a good way. Yeah, I think that looks really good. Thoughts on Path with AI theme? I think Path is a great sympathy play, a little bit lower key, and they just had a good earnings report, which they gapped up on. So I think Path looks great. If we see the AI theme continue, which I think we will, I think the Path weekly looks great. I also think the daily looks good too. Post earnings consolidation, humongous resistance on Path at 1834. So I'd be looking for a breakout trade above on Path. But I'm going to focus on AI probably first. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to make sure I get through a decent amount of questions. Tesla, I'm afraid to chase. I try to just follow trend on Tesla, right? So, like, you could see dips got bought. And for me, the next resistance that I see on Tesla is up here at 201, the psychological level at 200. A retest of 186 would be an attractive entry, or maybe even 192, but we're reclaiming this area of distribution on Tesla, which I think is actually very bullish. So the market looks really good to me from an outside perspective. I try to look at things as completely unbiased as I can. I think the market looks really healthy from a technical perspective. That doesn't mean a ton going into a binary event based on macro conditions and a rate hike decision. Those charts could get ruined in an instant. But for me, that's why I'm focusing on shorting the SPY, and the overall market, and just focusing on the best individual strength setups to the long side. So yeah, IWM does look good. Do you use EMAs or other indicators to confirm a trade? If so, what's your go-to before making a trade? I am completely price action based in terms of support and resistance levels on the hourly chart. That is my strategy. I stick to it. I do not use EMAs. I personally just like using really key hourly support and resistance, those key pivots on the daily chart as well. And for me, I am purely a price action based trader. So I've spent a lot of time, watching these candles for the past 3.5 years. And that is my advantage and strategy every day, is I know Tesla, Coin, NVIDIA really, really well, like the back of my hand. And I feel like I have an edge on those price action. I also use the tape really heavily, right? So level 2, bid ask. Obviously, if you're not familiar with it, and then I watch the time and sales all day, and I feel like, those are my holy grails in terms of trading. Tesla, I've only been a serious option trader for 5 years. Long-term investor, got back in at 200 where I should have sold. I would sell everything on the breakout, just me. Yeah, I don't try to trade too much. Hey, man, member for a long time. Appreciate your work, man. How do you narrow down your focus list for the next day, and what do you look for? Okay, that's a great question. I try to focus on the same 10 stocks every single day for the most part, and trading the same stocks over and over. I look through the same 10 charts every night, and at that point it just becomes it's so routine for me, right? That it's not like I'm undergoing a major alteration where I'm trying to seek out different charts every single day. I'm really focused on the same 10 charts, and usually one of them is going to offer an A+ setup long short. So I don't really have to do too much, right? I focus on Tesla, NVIDIA, SPY, Coin, ARKK, a name like AI, right, in terms of sympathy and directional theme in this market. And I keep it simple, right? I think that is my core trading strategies. I keep things as simple as possible. This game is complicated enough. Why would I overcomplicate it by trying to trade 50 different names? Does that make sense? Amazon looks fantastic. Somebody said, can you check the Amazon daily? This is one I wanted to mention. If you want my quick prediction here, try to, look at my, channel my inner That's So Raven and tell the future. I think Amazon is going to start to act a lot like Meta did. They are consistently laying off people. Wall Street loves jobs cuts, especially in this environment. And if you want my opinion on Amazon, I think it's going to be really, really strong. I bought this one at 84 or 85 post earnings a few months ago. It's been an absolute beast, and I think that if it gets through this 102 level, it's got a humongous potential upside move coming. This is going to be a name I think is really, really strong, and a name that I'm primarily going to be looking to play calls on intraday, day-to-day advice. So, and again, I personally cannot offer, direct financial advice, obviously, guys, but my opinion on Amazon is the fact that, with the way that Meta moved once they announced those job cuts, right? Job cuts obviously really suck for those that are affected by them, but in an shaky economic environment, in the sense of how Meta moved because they took the initiative to go and cut jobs, I think you're going to see a stock like Amazon move really healthy because they know that Wall Street is aware that Andy Jassy is taking the proactive measures to make sure that the company is as profitable as they can be, and Wall Street loves that. So this is a name that I'm going to expect to hold a lot of relative strength, and we obviously saw what Meta did over the past 18 weeks. Meta's had a 150% move, right, from its low. So I think we're going to see Amazon start to act a lot like that. Money flow index, especially capital inflow. Is that a good little example there on the Amazon daily, right? Nice candle on Monday, and then today, really strong spot. I think this looks fantastic tomorrow. If we get an upside move in the market, I would expect this to be a name that's leading. Yeah, I use Flow intraday. That's a confirmation point, right? So there's usually 2 to 3 confirmation points that go into a trade for me, and Flow is, oftentimes the last one. But yeah, so those are going to be my primary long focuses tomorrow. Thank you to whoever mentioned Amazon. I was totally forgetting one chart, and that was the one that I didn't put on my stream plan for tonight. So I'm really happy you mentioned that. I love that setup over 101. Could you explain put closing? So put writing is when you see put closing strategy, right, is a term of a form of flow, right, where you're seeing puts actually being closed out. You'll often see those come up as block orders, right, or you're seeing puts being sold. Usually that is a very bullish sign, right? Last week on Microsoft, before it had that 6% move, we saw a massive put writing in Microsoft, right, where somebody was trying to sell puts, right? If they're trying to collect premium on puts, it means they think those are going to probably expire worthless, in which the option seller makes a lot of money. So if you see people selling puts, oftentimes, right, that you're going to see an upside move in the stock. Are these live sessions going to be a regular thing? So I live stream every single day in my Discord in the mornings, every 30 minutes. If you guys are interested in that, there's a link in my Twitter bio. You can come in the Discord. We live stream every single morning. As far as public live streams go, I'm going to try to do these twice a month. If you guys are enjoying them, please let me know. Obviously, I really hope these streams are bringing value to you guys. I really appreciate everybody that's been watching them. It obviously means a ton to me because I'm taking the time to come on and do this, but I really hope these streams are providing value. And Mans, what are your thoughts? Tomorrow's rate hike, 25, 50, or pause? I think we're going to get 25 because that's what the CME tool tells me. So I'm not going to try to predict too much. But yeah, that's my overview and game plan for tomorrow. Pretty simple and straightforward. How much is your Discord? $3 a day, $99 a month. Thank you, Mans. We need those A+ setup signs. I'm trying to get those in production, guys. It take forever. Absolutely, bro. Keep them coming. Campos, really appreciate you tuning in. Matt, means a ton. But yeah, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. It's 10 p.m. Gonna try to go catch the end of this USA-Japan game. Get a little bit of rest in before a humongous day tomorrow. Gonna be very hands-off for me in the morning. Gave you my entire full and game plan and setup. If you'd like to come live trade tomorrow, you can with me. The Discord link is in my bio. And yeah, I will see you guys on the next live stream. Hopefully tonight's stream brought you a ton of value. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next stream. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Talk to you later. Peace.